Well, welcome today. Is anybody going to welcome me back? That's good. We've been in a series on welcome, haven't we? So let's just try that again. Welcome. That's good. Isn't it nice to be here? I love the fact that we are here and that we can actually explore this biblical principle of welcome, that we can actually kind of delve into it a little bit. But let's just rewind, just in case you haven't been with us all this time. But we've been looking at the biblical principle of welcome, and we've been actually looking at how welcome is for everybody. Regardless of your background, regardless of where you come from, who you are, what you've done, the biblical principle of welcome says you are welcome, and that we should extend that welcome to all people. But it also means that you are welcomed into God's family, into the family of God, into the community of believers, into the fact that God extended his welcome to the world to draw them back to himself, to draw everybody back to himself. And last week, Kerry brought us a fantastic message on welcome as hospitality, as how we show our hospitality to those around us. And in doing that, we bring welcome. Today, as I round out our preaching series on this biblical principle of welcome, we're going to be looking at welcome as sacrifice. Welcome as sacrifice. And sacrifice really comes as a follow-on and delving deep into the understanding of hospitality and what it actually really means to be welcoming in hospitality, but what it means that we sacrifice as we do this. And how our welcome makes a difference. But first, let's do a definition, just so that we're on the same page, so we understand what I'm talking about when I talk about sacrifice. See, sacrifice is to give up something that is valuable to you, the individual. So you are sacrificing, you're giving up something that is valuable to you in order to actually help another person. So it's not a sacrifice to give up something you have to help yourself. It's actually to help somebody else. It's another person. So that comes to the question, what is valuable to you? What is it that you value? What are the things that you hold on to tightly? What are the things that you grab hold of and don't let go? Because that's the things that are valuable to, isn't it? Value is something that you put worth in, put energy in, put understanding, you want to achieve, you want to get it. So what is it that you hold on to tightly? And what is it that you might need to sacrifice in order to show welcome? What is it that you may have to give to another person to show welcome? See, to truly welcome somebody as sacrifice is actually saying this, that you value that person more than the item that you are giving up. See that? That you actually value the person more than the value of the item that you're giving up, and that you are giving this person this value, and you're giving that person that welcome. You are bringing them to you. So putting this into practice, we as a church, we partner with Compassion, the child sponsorship program, and that's actually part of our welcome as sacrifice, isn't it? We give up something that is from us and we give it to Compassion to help children in poverty and in need around the world. Now, I don't know have you seen the Compassion books? How many people have seen the Compassion books? There's been one sitting up there. I'm going to explain something just in a moment and you'll kind of understand why. And you're going to kind of understand why we've had the pictures of wheat up all through the series, and see in this Compassion. So if you have a look at Compassion, what do you notice up in this corner? There's a blue square, isn't there? Believe it or not, it's actually 1/10 the size of this and 1/10 the size of that, but it's a corner that reminds us about we should be setting aside a portion to give to those who are poor. And where does that actually come from? It's actually biblical. It comes from a principle of how we give, and actually comes from Leviticus 23, verse 22, and we're going to put it on the screen. For when you harvest the crops, and this is the note, this is the understanding of why that corn is significant. And when you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grain along the edges of your field, and do not pick up what the harvesters drop. Leave it for the poor and the foreigners living amongst you. I am the Lord your God. So in other words, don't take everything that you've got. Don't go to there. Leave a portion of what you've got for those who are less fortunate. And that's the basis of where compassion is. It's the notion of leaving that corner, that bit, that portion for the poor, for those who are widowed, for those that don't have enough. It's actually sacrificing what you have for those that don't have, and you welcome them in that. This is not the only instance in the Bible that talks about this. So let's just jump into another section in Leviticus. So Leviticus 19, verses 9 to 10, it says this: when you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grain along the edges of your field, and do not pick up what the harvesters drop. It is the same with your grape crop. Do not strip every bunch of grapes from the vines, and do not pick up the grapes that fall to the ground. Leave them for the poor and the foreigners living amongst you. I am the Lord your God. Notice this, it's not just restricted to wheat fields. It's not just restricted to harvesting that and leaving a section. It's actually going a little bit bigger, and it's talking a bit about the grain harvest and everything else. And also, not only just in Leviticus, but in Deuteronomy it has this. And when you are harvesting your crops, notice this, it's coming back again. You've got to understand that this time was, economy and life and everything was revolving around harvest. It was subsistence. So you'd sow your wheat, you'd sow your crops, and you'd bring it back in, and you'd live off that until you could get some more from the land. So when you harvest your crops and forget to bring a bundle of grain from the field, don't go back and get it. Leave it for the foreigners, orphans and widows. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all you do. And when you beat the olives from the olive tree, don't go over the boughs twice. Leave the remaining olives for the foreigners, orphans and widows. And when you gather the grapes in your vineyards, don't glean the vines after they are picked. So don't go back over them and get every last bit. Leave the remaining grapes for the foreigners and orphans. See, this is the same thing. It's actually saying that even though you may have all of this, you've got to leave some. You've got to leave it there for those who need to be welcomed into the community, those who don't have enough. They're amazing and incredibly powerful notions that we have here. The notion of not using and not taking everything you have for yourself is actually deeply ingrained in our Christianity, in who we are, and it's deeply ingrained in who we are as a church. We provide for others out of our resources. In other words, what we need to do is we need to actively give up something of our own. That is the sacrifice part. So don't actively go and take everything from the edge of the fields and to the corners, and don't go over and shake the olive trees many times till you get everything off. Don't go and use all of your money or all of your possessions or whatever it is. Make that sacrifice. Actively give up something that you own for the sake of somebody else. And that provides a welcome to that person. It provides hospitality. It brings them into the family. It really shows you what is that biblical principle of welcome and how we welcome others. So let me just break this down in a few ways for us as how we may bring this principle of welcome as sacrifice into things. And the first thing is this, and I'm going to break it down into a couple of different elements for us. The first is this: welcome expressed, so we can express welcome through giving up our rights. Let me go in this. Let's look back not at the harvesting to the very edges of the field, but if you own the land, you've put in the time and the effort and the money into growing the harvest. So don't you have the right to take everything? Isn't that what society tells us? If you put in the time and the energy, it's all yours. You get it. Put in more time, more energy, you get it. You maximise your profits, to use a different word. put that time, maximise your profits. But to show welcome, you sacrifice your right to all that you have. So you sacrifice your right to all that you have and you give it to somebody else. You give it to somebody else that needs it. Now, it doesn't have to be just about property and possessions. It can actually be in many different areas in our lives where we see that we have a right to something. You know, just during the week, we had some really good friends come and stay with us. I haven't actually cleared this with Annette, but it should be okay. She's now looking worried. No. We had some good friends come and stay with us overnight, and they were up from Melbourne. And we gave up something so that they could be welcomed and they could be comfortable. They were staying with us, and because of, you know, the way we have our house set up and everything else, we don't have like a guest bedroom or anything like that. So we said, you go and sleep in our bedroom, in our bed. So we gave up our right to sleep in our bedroom and in our bed so that our visitors could feel welcome, could feel comfortable. So notice that to provide that welcome, there's a sacrifice that you made. I won't tell you where we slept, but that's okay. But you know, that might, you know, some might have greater levels of sacrifice than the other. But you might sacrifice a good night's sleep. But that's, you know, that's kind of what it is. It's actually giving up your right to something. It doesn't have to be big, but it has to extend that welcome to another by sacrificing your right to whatever it is. So welcome can be expressed through giving up your right to something. The second thing that we have that we want to kind of explore about sacrifice as welcome is welcome is expressed by giving your time. You know, and I don't know how many times you hear now in the news and media outlet and everything else, how time poor we are. You know, we rush around, we're busy, we're doing everything, and, you know, the commodity that we don't have is time. Nothing shows welcome so much as actually sacrificing your time for somebody else, to actually extend that welcome beyond just saying hello or giving. It actually extends the welcome even more. It's probably one of the simplest things to do, to give up your time, because, you know, time is precious. And the thing about this is that, you know, well, for introverts, it's probably a bigger deal than extroverts, really. Extroverts like to be with everybody. But it's also about going, well, maybe it's that person you don't get on with, or that person you don't necessarily get a part of, that you actually go, I need to sacrifice a bit of time that I'm spending with all these people I like to go and spend time with somebody I need to bring in and welcome. For us introverts, it might be actually just getting out of the house and spending time with somebody else that will show that welcome. But it's actually saying, I've got all this time, it's precious, it's important, I've got lots of things to do, but I am not going to do this. I'm going to sacrifice this section of time so I can spend it with somebody. That shows welcome. That's saying I'm sacrificing something of mine for somebody else. The third thing is this, is that welcome is expressed through the giving of your possessions, so the sacrifice of possessions. And this is a biggie, you know. It's the one that I just want to give you a guiding principle on. I don't want to delve into it in this series, but to show welcome through sacrifice of our possessions it really comes down to this. We give of our possessions, not out of our excess, not out of our leftovers, not of the things that we don't use and don't want anymore. That's not giving. That's not giving as a sacrifice to provide welcome. But welcome as a sacrifice comes out of giving out of what you own, out of what that is functional to you, what is important to you, and you give of that possession to somebody else. Now that may be money, that may be items that you have, that may be something you've made. Now I've got a good friend who is a photographer. But he goes to church, and he's heavily involved in church and heavily actually involved in overseas mission and churches overseas. Now I had a message that did I actually, from somebody that I had kind of met online somewhere, on Facebook and in photography groups, and they messaged and said, "Do I know this person?" I said, "Yeah, I do know this person." They said, "Because they're selling this lens. And if you know anything about photography, cameras are great. The lenses are what makes things. You love your lenses because they give particular looks, and they're wonderful, they're expensive, all those kind of things." And he's selling this, and she was going, "Well, is it for real? Is this person for real that they're selling this lens?" And I said, "Yeah, this person's for real. I know them, and yet they would do that." See, what he was doing, he's passionate about his photography. He loves what's going on, but he was selling his lens because one of the churches he knows about in a developing country has had some crises happen, and they needed money, and so he would sold something of his possession to give to the others, to give to that church. He sold it not out of excess, but out of something that he loved and used and really wanted, but he gave it so that they could have something. That is welcome as sacrifice of possession, isn't it? That's taking something that is valuable to you and giving it over so somebody else can feel that welcome and survive. Finally, and this is an interesting one, is how do we express our welcome by sacrificing our opinion or point of view? Welcome, when we can express welcome by sacrificing, giving up our opinion and point of view, is incredibly powerful and brings a real sense of welcome and togetherness, more probably than anything else. See, the thing is, we create barriers through our ideologies, through our opinions, don't we? Where we don't always show welcome to those who hold a contrary opinion. Unfortunately, our government works on a combating system, don't they? We have two opposing points of view, and have you ever watched Parliament? It's just fighting, it's arguing, it's horrible. And you wonder how you could actually get anything done. And there's no sense of welcome, or, how can we actually make this work? I find it strange that a government that, our system of government that's meant to bring us to a point where there's great good for all in our community, we don't actually go, well, how can we figure this out? Rather, we say, you're stupid, the ideas you have are wrong, and I've got better ideas. Can you hear what's happening? That's not welcome language. And it may not just be Parliament, it could be anything. We do it in our lives. Our opinions, our ideologies tend to drive us and separate us. To show welcome by sacrificing our opinion or point of view means you open yourself up to the other person. It means you can actually take that step and provide that welcome to the other person, especially when they have a contrary opinion. Now, I don't want to say that you can't have strong opinions, and I don't want to say that you can't have contrary opinions, and that is actually important. We need those. Because, if we say we don't have strong opinions, we don't have contrary, we end up in this wishy-washy, homogenous mush of niceness that gets us nowhere. Rather, our opinions should not lead us to isolate ourselves and isolate other people victimise them, and put them in a position where they feel pushed out. We need to draw back from division to allow welcome, rather than let our opinions divide and separate. That's what it means to sacrifice our opinion so that we may welcome. See, welcome that is born out of sacrifice creates a very deep and meaningful connection between us. Welcome that is born out of sacrifice is found in the Bible, and our welcome and our care of the poor and the orphaned and those who are not from our tribe are the basis of where we welcome those through sacrifice. So let me leave you with this question. What are you willing to sacrifice so that you can extend welcome to those around you? So let's pray. Now I'm going to lead us in a prayer, but as I do this, I'm actually going to bring a prayer in that is a little bit old. It's 450 years old to be exact. But let's just pray together. Let's just bring this prayer and let it speak to us. O Lord, take and receive all of my liberty, all of my memory, all of my understanding, my entire will, all that I have and all that I possess. Lord, you have given all to me, and to you, O Lord, I return it. All is yours. Do what you will with what I have and what you have given me. And Lord, may you give me love, may you give me grace, and may that be sufficient for me. Amen.